Hi, I'm Rachelle, and welcome back to another episode of Crafts and Stuff, a very special episode because for the first time ever, I'm not going to teach you anything. This is my friend Darren, and he is from the New England Wood Carvers, and he is going to teach me, and therefore all of you, how to carve on wood. We're supposedly going to be making little gnomes. But there's lots of things to discuss about soap carving before we actually get into soap carving. So, Darren, welcome. Thank you so much for taking time off from your day to come here.
Well, thank you so much, Rachelle, for having me on your show. And yes, we're going to talk about soap carving. We're going to go through some safety. We're going to go through some tools, the process, and then we'll finish it up with how you can continue on with this. Now, soap carving is, in many ways, it's called sculpting, okay? And there's two ways of sculpting. One is like using putty, and most kids grow up learning how to sculpt by using Play-Doh. The other one is particularly carving. So with like putty and stuff, you're actually adding material onto your sculpture. With carving, you're actually taking material away. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between the two. And so like wood carving, stone carving, soap carving, even wax carving, they usually start off with a chunk of material. They imagine some image inside of it, and then they start taking the material away. With that, before we start carving, we want to talk about safety. Usually, if you're carving, you will have a carving glove, okay? Now the carving glove is so that you don't cut yourself. But, you know, you don't have to worry about cutting yourself if you use like a wooden knife, a wooden spoon, a wooden fork, okay? You can even make your own tools out of wood. So here I've made a gouge and a V-tool. You can make sculpting tools out of anything, really. So here I have a very old straw that nobody uses anymore, and I can use that to impress little designs or textures into the wood. Now, I personally like to use steel tools. Now, usually you can get carving tools like this, like $10 for this whole set. They're really cheap. They're not that sharp. They're great for soap carving, not so good for wood carving. I would never buy these for wood carving. But I have my own tools for wood carving. But because we are soap carving today, I'm going to use these tools because I wouldn't use my real wood carving tools on soap. And then from that, we're going to go into the process. Now, the process of carving anything is you first start off with an outline. So here I have an outline of a person's hand. And if you notice it's kind of like the Boy Scout sign, okay? So anybody who takes their oath recognizes the 3 fingers. And this is what they call blocking. So what we're going to do is we're going to block out the figure after we draw it in there. The next step is I block it in the second dimension, and then I round it, and then I add some detail to it. So here I have a small hand in the Boy Scout oath, or Boy Scout sign here, and that completes our carving. Today, we are going to carve a gnome out of soap. Okay? I don't know if you can see this, but essentially a gnome is pretty easy to carve because essentially a gnome is got a hat, it's got a beard, and it's got a nose. And these are sold everywhere. You go to your grocery store and someone's selling you gnomes, to the garden store, to Home Depot, or to Lowe's, okay, Walmart. All those stores, they have gnomes, and all they are is a beard, a hat, and a nose. And they're really easy to carve as well. So, in that, let us begin carving. We're going to take our bar soap.
Does it always have to be ivory?
It doesn't have to be ivory. It could be any soap you want. Now, for kids, I suggest ivory because it doesn't have as many perfumes in it. Now,
Really? It's getting
I know,
very smelly in this
it
room.
smells pretty good. And from that, you know, if your kid is like allergic to perfumes and stuff like that, or has skin irritations, I'd probably go to a softer soap like Dove or something like that. Or even, there's some very creative people out there that make their own soap, okay? And you can add perfumes and you can add colors and all that other good stuff. I use Ivory because it's cheap. As long as I can keep the kids from touching their eyes with it, it's very enjoyable. And I don't know, from that it's not heavy with perfumes, but it does have a nice smell to it.
It's also not heavy. Because isn't Ivory the one that's supposed to float?
Yes.
Yes, so it isn't very heavy.
Yes, and Ivory is actually the one company that started off with soap carving. In this book, they talk about some lady who went to Ivory to get a big old chunk of soap because she was going to do some soap carving professionally. And from that, Ivory started a campaign of soap carving with younger kids, because kids didn't like soap at first because, well, it got into their eyes and they always had to clean, and some parents used it to teach them how not to say bad words. So kids didn't naturally like soap, but once they started to begin to carve with it, start to be creative with it, they started to like soap more, okay? And soap became a lot of fun. So here I have my bar of Ivory, and the first thing I'm going to do when I carve my gnome is I'm going to grab the midsection on the top of the bottom. I'm just going to mark it off. Okay. I'm going to take my glasses off because I can see better. And I notice that my gnome has the shape of a football. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the shape of a football on my soap.
And you want to go to all of those points
Yep,
that you just
I want
drew?
to go from midpoint to midpoint.
Football, very pointy
Yeah.
football.
And I don't want to go straight there. I want to give it some curve. Okay. So here I've outlined my soap, and I have a nice arch going from midpoint to midpoint to all 4 points. Then, one of the great things I like about Ivory, it's got a 0 or an O there, and I'm going to use that O for my nose.
Handy.
Yeah, so I'm going to start at the top of the O and go to the midpoint, and from that point, and that's going to be his hat. And then I'm going to draw another circle around the nose. Okay.
A bigger circle around the nose, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And now that I have my outline all done, I'm ready to begin the carving process. So I'm going to grab my knife. I'm going to use a steel knife today. And Rachelle is going to be using a plastic knife to show you safety. I have my safety glove on, and I always have it on the opposite hand of which I'm carving. So I'm right-handed. I have my knife in my right hand, and I have my glove here because I'm in no danger of cutting myself with my right hand. But as I'm holding the soap, I can easily cut my left hand. So therefore, I need to have the soap or the glove on my left hand. So now, as we begin to carve, you need to teach your children the slicing cut. Now, most kids, when they learn how to use a knife, they're either using it to cut meat, okay, like a steak knife. So you'll see kids start off trying to carve like this, you know, using their knife as though it were a steak knife. And after a while, their parents teach them how to slice a cucumber or peel a potato. And these are the kind of cuts that we use in soap carving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a push cut or a slicing cut to start carving. And I'm just going to carve off little pieces of it at a time. Don't try and cut off too much. And I'm using a push cut and a slicing cut, and I'm going to do all 4 corners.
So I'm following my football shape?
You're following your football shape. And once I'm done with one, I'm going to go to the next corner.
Well, you could tell the difference between a plastic knife and a steel knife. You got nice, great big cuts, and I've got this. I've got confetti.
Okay. Now that I got the bottom, I'm going to go after the top. It shouldn't take too long. And from that, generally I like to use soap that has dried out a little bit, but you don't want it too dry. You don't want your soap brittle.
All right. I noticed that you're pushing with your left thumb. You don't want to carve like this. You want to carve like...
Yeah, you should never teach kids not to carve like this, okay, because the knife can slip from the material. Now what you want to do is you kind of want to lock in your elbows to limit the amount that you can cut. And then on top of that, I'm not really carving so much with this hand. This hand is controlling the knife. I'm really pushing with my thumb here with my left hand, and that's what's giving me a nice little carve there. And I always try to look to see where the knife is going, and if I see my fingers in the way, I get them out of the way before I bring the knife through the material. So it's always good to envision where the knife is going to cut if the knife is going to slip. So at this point, I have my football shape. Okay.
I have half a football.
And I'm going to start rounding off the shape here. But first, I want to go after my nose and my hat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a stop cut at my hat. And a stop cut is essentially, I'm just bringing the knife down, and it will stop my carve when I come in at an angle. I'll stop my knife when I come in at an angle. So now I've outlined my hat. Now I'm going to do a stop cut around the nose. And I'm going to go a little bit larger than the O in ivory. Because I can always make the nose smaller. I can't make it bigger. So from that, I'm going to do my little angle cut. And now you'll see the beginnings of the nose, the hat, and the beard. Shall I continue on, or shall I?
No, you go right
Okay.
ahead. I'm a little behind, but I'm catching on here.
Yep. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start rounding off the gnome or the soap. So I'm essentially just going to take the corners off. Okay. And I don't want to take off too much material at a time, but I do want to round it. So the center is where my high point is, and I want to gradually slice or round to the edges. And I'm going to do that for both the beard and the hat.
Guess I should go back to carving out my hat then. I imagine wood would be a lot harder to carve through than a piece of soap.
This is true. Now, if you're going to carve wood, you want to use a knife that is razor sharp. With soap, it doesn't need to be razor sharp. In fact, I would avoid using a razor sharp knife because you could cut it with a butter knife. And you can usually use a butter knife out of the silverware drawer. And then once you're done soap carving, you just put it back in the dishwasher, and the dishwasher will take all the soap off. So But before you start carving, especially for the children out there, you want to ask your parents' permission first. Okay, because your parents don't want to come home and find that you've taken all the soap out of their supply cabinet and have carved it into little pieces like this. That would not make them happy. Also, you should always be asking your parents before you start using a knife. This way, they can show you how to properly use the knife and are there if you should happen to cut yourself. But if you cut yourself with a plastic knife or a wooden knife, I would really like you to email me and tell me that, because I haven't seen that happen yet. And that's generally what we do, is we give our kids the plastic knives and the wooden tools. And we only let them use steel tools if the parents allow them to. The parents generally have to be there in order for them to use steel tools. Now this knife that I'm using right now, it's really not very sharp. I would not use this knife for carving wood. And it's actually made from an old steak knife that somebody had. And they ground it down the edge there. So, and now I'm going to round off the nose here. So, I pretty much have my gnome done, being rounded off. So if you see, I got the hat, I got the nose, and I got the beard. The only thing I need to do now is I need to add the detail. So from that point, that's where I'm going to use my V chisel. I have a little V chisel here. And the reason it's called the V chisel is because it's shaped like a V. And when I carve the beard in, I'm going to start from the nose, I'm going to head down towards the tip, and I'm going to make S shapes and C shapes. Because I don't want to make straight lines, because straight lines in a beard just don't look right. So, and I'm going to, what I do on one side, I'm going to try and do on the other side. Okay, so here, you'll see my beard coming out. And I'm going to do both sides. Now I can get very creative with the hat. So I now have the beard done. And now for the hat, I can give it a nice little rim like a Santa Claus hat. And I can also give it a ball as I point it down. Now generally, what you would do with the hat is you would give it a Y mark up here. And the reason why it's called a Y mark is because it's shaped like a Y. And from that point, the Y points to the end of the hat. And the Y also shows that the hat is being tipped over. So I'm going to show the Y here a little bit better. And I'm going to give my hat a little rim as I allow Rachelle to catch up with me.
Oh, it's going to be quite a while. We're still working on a beard, using the wrong end of the knife to cut my little gullies into the beard.
Yeah, so.
And hopefully this will look like a gnome when I'm done with it. I don't know. It might just look like a broken bar of soap. Oops.
So to get my rim in, okay, I merely did a series of stop cuts and slices going in, and you probably seen me use a paring cut. Now a paring cut is a stop cut, and a paring cut is a cut towards yourself, right? So it's kind of like you're peeling a potato. So in there, I do the stop cut, and once I hit that, that's where the knife will stop on my stop cut. So I have my rim, and I'm also going to give this one a nice ball. So I'm going to outline the ball with my knife, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a series of stop cuts, little angle slices to bring that ball out. And now I'm going to use this as a U gouge, okay? And the reason it's called a gouge is because it's shaped like a U. It's not a chisel that's flat, but it's essentially a chisel with a U shape, and it usually has the bevel on one side. Okay, where a knife usually has two bevels to it, one on each side. A chisel or a gouge has a single bevel on one side, and I'm going to use that for texturing. Okay, so right now I'm just going to texture the hat. I'm just going to do a series of gouge marks. Okay. So there's my gnome from start to finish. In some ways it looks just like this gnome. And now if I have guests, I can use that, put that into their bathroom, and for them to use. They might not even use it. They'll say, oh, the gnome looks so good, I can't use it.
Too cute, I can't use it.
Yeah.
Although I think maybe using my gnome might improve it.
So
It's not the best gnome.
I do like what Rachelle is doing over here. She's using the edge of her knife to texture. So like you could use
And to clean, because there's lots of little bits
Yeah.
of soap in there.
So you could use the edge of the knife here to enhance the beard here, and it looks like fine little hair on the edge of the soap.
Thank
There you go. So with that, I'm going to tell you that there's a lot of like soap carving books. I brought an example of one here, and I've went through several of these soap carving things where I've carved myself a whale. Okay, I've carved myself a Santa Claus, a penguin. This guy was really fun. This is an advanced project. Okay, I don't recommend it until you've done the novice projects in here first. I've done myself a quick snowman. I could add more detail to this if I wanted to, and a tree. Now, one of the things that I would also tell you is, I've seen some kids, they will take a big bar of soap like this and draw just a little itsy bitsy design on it. And I would tell them to make it bigger, because the bigger you make your drawing or your outline, the more the soap you use and the less you have to carve. If you make your little drawing very, very small, you have to carve a lot, okay? And then it's almost certain that you're gonna break something, okay? Or cut something off. So use up the full bar of soap as much as possible with the shape, and this way your carving is faster, it's easier, and you'll have less shavings. Now when you have all of these shavings, it's like, what shall I do? You can throw them away. It's not like soap is very expensive. I've seen some people take soap carvings like this, put it in nylons and hang it from their fruit trees to, I guess, repel deers and other various insects. I don't know how effective it is, but it does work. You can try and use one of those, what do you call it? They heat up candles, okay? and they melt it and they give out a fragrance. You can use like a old jar, put the soap shavings in there, let that system melt the soap, and then you can get what do you call it? Forms or other things where
Oh, so get some molds and you can.
molds. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay, and you can pour this into and make your own soap.
Well,
I don't know how clean this would be,
you're not really making your own soap. You're reusing soap and
but making it into another bar.
yeah, and you could buy
Depending on how
molds
clean it is.
at Michael's, and you know they already have some predefined shapes. So you melt it, and then you repurpose it. You know, soap can be used everywhere. Now, if you wanted to paint this, you could paint that too. Now, some of the recommendations for painting is to kind of make a slurry of, you know, take these shavings, kind of melt it down or add some water to it, okay? You know, get it really soft. Add some food coloring to it, and then just kind of paint it.
And then painting it. Oh, I would never have thought to paint
Okay.
my soap.
You can
Cool.
paint it. You can paint it directly, okay? But you know, if you can use acrylic, it will paint on there. Some what other people do is they'll spray the soap with polyurethane, and then they'll paint it. Now, once you have polyurethane on it, you're kind of using it as now a sculpture and not soap. So generally, when you put those kind of chemicals on there, it's, I guess, I wouldn't use it to clean up, per se.
No, I don't even know if you even could. I mean, if it had
No.
polyurethane on it, then you put it under the running water, would it even get softer and soapy like
Water will get to it eventually.
eventually?
Yeah, if you left it outside in the rain, it will start to dissolve, I'm sure. But
Bend this a little. There. So, you're from the New England Wood Carvers. Can you tell me a little bit about New England Wood Carvers?
well, New England Wood Carvers is
And-
a group of, I would say, mostly adults, okay? And we have some parents there that bring their kids in. And what we do is we have a project the first Saturday of every month, okay? And they carve a whole bunch of little projects that goes from novice to intermediate. And some people carve their own little projects, but it's essentially a group of artists that come together and we just have fun carving together, okay? So it's kind of a social plus a learning event at the same time. It's all educational because we do have classes, but it's also very social in that you can carve whatever you want. People will discuss different techniques amongst each other. They'll trade secrets between each other, stuff like that. You can go around and ask any carver a question. Carvers are generally very nice and very generous to you. They're always happy to, what do you call, impart their knowledge upon you if you're willing to learn. And I've seen several very generous carvers, even like you, Rachelle. You've donated some of your carvings to the Tree of Hope. And we have several carvers that donate carvings to the Tree of Hope. And we sell these carvings, these ornaments, and sometimes they're knickknacks. We sell them for charity. And with the proceeds, we then use that money to give to other charities. So we gave some money to the Wilmington Senior Center. We gave some money to local heroes. We gave some money to iPods for wounded veterans and so, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then
Also,
we have this piece of paper right here.
yes.
Yes, which is coming up in 2 weeks from today for us. Who knows when you're watching this? So what is the Spirit of Wood?
The Spirit of Wood.
Oh, and this
Okay.
is all at St. Thomas's Church. We didn't even say where.
Oh yeah, sorry.
First Saturday of the
every
month.
month in the basement of St. Thomas Church. That's where we meet. You can go to our website, get more information. Just Google New England Wood Carvers, and it'll take us right to the site. Now, what we do is every year we put on the Spirit of Wood show. Now, the Spirit of Wood is kind of like it's similar to the Massachusetts slogan "Spirit of America." It kind of derived from there. So, what we do as a wood carving group is we put on the Spirit of Wood show. And it is a art show and a craft fair all combined. Now, wood carvers from all over New England will bring their wood carvings in for competition. And the picture that I have here is the best of show from last year. So if you can imagine, I know many of you watched a dog show before, but you haven't seen a wood carving art show before. So it's very similar to that. We give out the same awards. All these wood carvers bring in their carvings. They get judged. There's some best of levels, best of show, president's choice, people's choice. So you can come to the show, pick out your best carving, put it in for the People's Choice Award. You can buy crafts. There's wood carvers selling their carvings to you. They're all handcrafted, hand painted. There is also classes that we have. There will be a wood carving class. Rachelle is going to be there teaching soap carving
class
to kids.
now that I know how.
And we also have the Wilmington Art Council there who will be demonstrating painting. So there's a lot of fun. For a lot of the adults, there is, like the wood carving classes that I talked about, there's also going to be a live falconer there that's going to demonstrate how to carve a falcon, and they're going to actually have a live falcon to show you the different shapes and designs and stuff like that.
So when is this?
This here is Saturday and Sunday of October 18th and 19th of the year 2025.
Just in case we're watching this way in the future.
Yeah. So you're invited to come, and we have this every year. So wherever we have it, look us up and come to the event. I think it's a lot of fun. It costs $10 in donation. It's not a ticketed item, but what we do is we ask for $10 in donation to help pay for, the rental of the building, help pay for some of the ribbons that go out.
For all the soap.
Yeah, for the soap, some of the raw material that we bring in. It helps to pay for some of the instructors, okay, and stuff like that. And this year, the Wilmington Art Council is helping us present this show, which I think is great. And this is the first time it's going to be in Wilmington. So I think that is another plus. So I'd take advantage of that opportunity and come.
And you could come and you can learn how to make, it's not a bad looking gnome. It's
make
not
shavings
your
out of
gnome,
soap.
but it's not a bad looking gnome. I'm kind of happy with them.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
I think it looks really good. And
I did it with a plastic knife, both ends.
which is even more challenging.
Yeah, because it kept wiggling.
And like we tell everybody, this is folk art, it's not fine art. However you want to express yourself and the tools that you use. And even today, like my kid is all grown up, but the best art I have in my house is the art my kid made way back when he was in elementary. To me, that is still the artwork that touches my soul and
Come to my kitchen.
it makes me happy.
See my kids' artwork from kindergarten.
So whatever you carve, I'm sure your parents and your loved ones are going to appreciate it, because essentially that's why we carve, is for friends and family.
Well, Darren, thank you so much for being on the show with me.
Well, thank
and
you,
I hope
Rachelle.
you all enjoyed Darren and this very different version of Crafts and Stuff with Rachelle. So until the next time, bye.
Bye.